In intelligence and national security, information is power, but it can also be deadly. History is littered with those who got too close to dangerous truths, whistleblowers, journalists, even ordinary citizens. Their deaths, often ruled suicides or accidents, raise more questions than answers. The pattern is chilling. Lives ruined, families torn apart, victims jailed and courts bought off. People connected to sensitive information meet mysterious ends. Fires, federal massacres, C4 dropped on homes, journalists framed like Mumia Abu-Jamal, and MOVE organization. Official stories rarely satisfy grieving families or a skeptical public. A gunshot wound to the back of the head is called suicide, even with broken hands. A car crash is an accident, despite warnings of being followed, suspicious break-ins and phone company trucks filled with hostile gunmen lurking in driveways. These incidents cross decades and borders involving everyone from low-level clerks to high-profile reporters. The common thread? Secrets that powerful entities want buried. Exposing wrongdoing means challenging a system with vast resources, surveillance, censorship, foreign intelligence rings operating with impunity, pressure from Black Cube, Canary Mission, Chiron Collective, cutouts for Mossad and Shin Bet installed in top spots in Google, Facebook, and lesser-known tech and more. Crime rings, bot loyalties, clandestine networks working under the cover of bureaucracy. How far would such a system go to protect itself? What is one life when up against trillions in lost Pentagon funds, unlimited access to oil or rackets set up that only thrive when the third world starves and dies to proliferate false oil and diamond scarcity? The evidence is unsettling. Books censored like works by Cleva Hava, Christopher Ballin, and Naeem Giladi. Tonight we examine these cases, the evidence left behind, and the voices demanding answers. This isn't about conspiracy theories, it's about facts, inconsistencies, and the public's right to know. The pursuit of truth is essential, but for some, it's come at the ultimate price. We ask, where does the Bill of Rights stand when sharks appointed by Adelson, human trafficking money and Epstein magic bank accounts add Stasi surveillance and censorship runner bills to law prepared by foreign assets our officials don't even bother to read? Is the greatest danger to truth-tellers not from foreign enemies but from within? The stories you'll hear tonight may change how you see official narratives forever. For some, seeking the truth has been a fatal act in a silent war. The stories are varied, but the pattern is the same: crucial details missing, justice denied. News media shares a script, follows the orders from above, and buries news deemed dangerous to Wall Street, Tel Aviv, Quantico, Langley, London bankers and robber baron networks. Lavina Johnson, found dead with acid burns to cover up signs of gang rape. She was rumored to be dating an officer, officially a brief investigation, but whispers of a cover-up to protect a military career. Acid destroys evidence and identity, a calculated act, not a random crime, ensuring the protections of sadistic sex clubs and craven abusers in the mid-level henchmen of our military-industrial complex. Then there's Jarell Waddell, a young man who died of a flesh-eating disease, laying for days in his apartment when routine checks should have marked him as missing. Was this a case of testing bioweapons on black airmen? This has happened before with syphilis, radioactive material, and harmful radio waves tested on the taxpayer. Havana syndrome is never named when it's done to our dissidents and anti-war activists. His mother protested for years outside the White House, asking why her son died under mysterious circumstances with open wounds eating him alive. Demanding answers for what looked like a man-made plague or even Ebola after being forced experimental injections. Both cases touch the secretive world of the U.S. military, one personal, one institutional. The motives destroy reputations, avoid liability, channel funds to offshore tax havens, aid in the very dark factions control that the Federalist Papers warned of, banker plots and offshore directives to topple democracies, silence dissent. Data centers, black hat hackers, and propped-up frontmen in tech have replaced the grubby killers of COINTELPRO and domestic Phoenix program of yesterday. For citizens, the path to truth is an uphill battle. Look into the case of Malcolm X's grandson thrown off a roof in Mexico. Cover-up comes swift to demonize the silenced and move on to the next news item. We are up against a powerful system. Bryan Singer abuse ring, bad actor Peter Thiel controllers J.D. Vance, according to Whitney Webb. Kash Patel's mistress ties to foreign intelligence. Clive Davis, Lyra Cohen, Arnon Milchan, Brett Ratner, very open about their willingness to drown America on behalf of Israel. Official doors close quickly, and the questions linger. Was justice served, or was the truth buried? These stories indict a system, a corporate board, a local bought-off official. Think about who was paid off for Nestle oligarchs to sap California water rights when small farms are shut down. so Resnick billionaire monopoly can buy up vast regions cut off from groundwater, until their lobbyists change ACES conspiracies that too often value secrecy over transparency. For the families left behind, the fight for answers never ends. Quitclaim deeds and lack of oversight is how much of middle-class Silicon Valley was pushed out by shadowy law firms connected to Zoe Lofgren's husband's family. In investigative circles, a chilling term has emerged: suicided. It describes deaths ruled as suicide but widely suspected to be murder. Scenes staged, questions ignored, benefiting Wall Street, military-industrial complex, covert agencies, and fascist cabals of dirty money networks. The term reflects deep distrust in institutions meant to provide answers. Being suicided isn't a theory, it's a tactic to shut down investigations and civilian oversight. Whistleblowers found with broken bones, ligatures of being tied to chairs, and tortured victims shot multiple times, cars on board computers tampered with, gang stalked for years, yet ruled suicides. The logistics defy belief. John Potash writes about the lengths criminal networks and intelligence will go to hound critics into silence. But the official story stands. Accounts banned of those asking questions, careers ruined for asking questions. In the digital age, InfoWars was censored for questioning why the Holmes families in a mass shooting were bought by the US Gov a year before the event. These cases are scrutinized worldwide. Gary Webb, who exposed CIA drug links, frame-ups, compromised officials, cover-ups and harassment, was found with 2 gunshot wounds to the head, ruled a suicide. His life was made into a Jeremy Renner movie, Kill the Messenger. The actor was maimed in an accident a few years later. Suicided became shorthand for deaths too convenient for the powerful. Look into the suspicious deaths around COVID respirators. Hospitals paid a bounty on reported deaths with fat bonuses for listing COVID as means of death, while flooding victims with drugs to stifle the immune system, flood lungs with fluid, drowning victims. But there was an important election and they had to install Biden and sweep away all our Bill of Rights protections. The term suicided signals a public that no longer trusts the official story. Each suspicious case is a reminder. Sometimes the truth is the first casualty. As we have seen in Syria, Al-Qaeda is only sometimes the enemy, except when it benefits Netanyahu and his pal Dick Cheney's expansion of blood oil replacing Nord Stream via the Israelis. The list of those who died challenging power is long. The crimes against the people of the world were outlined by William Blum's books, Rogue State and Killing Hope, long explained by Noam Chomsky, Jim Marrs, and Peter Dale Scott. Consider the court case of the estate of Paul Robeson, similar events outlined in Wormwood documentary. Dissidents' brains cooked with sound waves, voice-to-skull technology, and induced feelings of mania, panic, and thoughts of suicide. Recently admitted in acoustic crowd dispersal devices, elf waves, and infrasound harassment. For every name we know, there are dozens we don't. Seth Rich, Tom Clancy, Michael Breitbart, Michael Hastings, a journalist investigating U.S. military links to ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Syria, died in a fiery car crash after warning he was being threatened and followed. His body was cremated without notifying his wife. News said he had drugs in system not hit by a hacked onboard computer. Aaron Swartz, internet activist fighting for open source information, faced relentless prosecution and died by suicide. His family called it a product of a vindictive system. Seth Rich killed for leaking sensitive emails of Hillary Clinton that seemed to use coded child abuse lingo, and show an effort by Debbie Wasserman Schultz to destroy the primary of Bernie Sanders. Michael Ruppert, ex-cop turned investigator, exposed CIA wrongdoing and died by reported suicide after decades of publishing troubling info on the deep state links to dirty war in South Central and Hollywood. Gary Corridori died in a mysterious plane crash, his briefcase of proof of a White House child abuse ring stolen by the FBI. The film Conspiracy of Silence was bought and shelved by shadowy billionaires. Dr. John McDonald, framed in what was designed to look like Manson copycats. Ted Gunderson worked for years to free him. Lesser-known voices evaluating vice presidential candidates, stabbed to death, case unsolved. Bill Cooper, radio host who wrote about aliens controlling the U.S. government planning a new Pearl Harbor event to invalidate the Bill of Rights, killed in a suspicious event with police trained in Israel on how to hide signs of torture, organ harvest, sex abuse, and brainwashing. There was a similar attempt on the life of Christopher Ballin, who exposed Mossad spies in the U.S. Gov tied to 9/11's cover-up, silenced under suspicious circumstances. Same could be said for Alex Oda, killed in a JDL bombing linked to modern settler violence and tax-free charities on U.S. soil, funding burning babies, arsons of Christian churches, and arming settler lynch mobs that target children with impunity. The motive protects secrets to proliferate injustice and corporate profits, similar deaths around AI, JFK, Israeli spy rings on us soil, organ harvest rings, human trafficking networks, and skewing history to hide truth and wrongdoing. Send a warning, install a shill, keep the dirty money networks rolling. Similar questions circle Christopher Dorner, and the quiet and missing Americans are being hunted by armed predator drones in our skies. Death controls the narrative. Crush dissent, remove oversight, keep intelligence cutouts as editorial managers to stifle dissent, and protect the compromised. Chris Hedges' lawsuit on NDAA 2012 and the Salvador option shows intention by the state to disappear, torture, and mass arrest Americans. We're seeing the prototype used against migrant children, hundreds of thousands missing. The sheer number of cases is cause for concern. Vast amounts of small towns starved out by big business and corporate greed, water tainted by fracking or stolen by Silicon Valley. These deaths leave a void in the pursuit of truth. Hollywood abuse in Washington, D.C. has a long list of dead mistresses and floating bodies. Even questions around deaths of rock stars remain. They remind us, freedom of information is not guaranteed. New threats by 8,200 honey traps in D.C. Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance are working to make a police-state holocaust with removing AI protections, installing infrastructures of mass murder for Gaza concentration camps, giving malicious code to terrorist groups working to steal oil and aid in Syria on behalf of predictable synagogue of Satan slush funds, whose history of land theft, war crimes, rape and murder goes back to time immemorial. For some, the price of knowledge is everything. Find Kleva Havas, Behold the Gates of Dawn, and Dark Side of Zion for more secrets of the universe hidden in satire and prose.